Welcome, everyone, to the CANDU Sports Show. Got your host, Scott Blair. And look, we're together.
Donray Bennett here. Good to have you on this beautiful Final Four Saturday.
Yes, and we have an awesome guest, a friend of ours, a coaching legend, joining us for today's show. We're going to chop up the women's Final Four from last night, and then, of course, the men's action this weekend. The one and only Tom York. Listen, for those who are viewing, we got to set this up a little bit, right?
Yes.
We've got a Hall of Fame inductee from his time at CB West, right, Coach?
Correct.
Yep, high school team. He's a three-time coach, three-time District 3 title winner from his time at Wilson. 105-20 career record, I think. Does that sound about right?
That's
right?
really impressive.
2 county championships when he was there. And when he was at Kutztown on the women's side, he was PSAC East Coach of the Year. So
yes, and let's not forget that up until 2 seasons ago, he was also the leading coach in terms of wins at our alma mater,
all three of us.
Kutztown University. That's right. So shout out for that as well. He's got to get the respect and the recognition here if he's not getting it elsewhere. So
cheers.
Absolutely.
So welcome, Tom.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be in the presence of you two.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun. So let's start first with reactions from last night's game, right? Let's start maybe with South Carolina and NC State. Certainly was tight through halftime, and then South Carolina kind of pulled away there in the second half. Any reactions, quick takes from that game?
I think South Carolina is just more athletic, bigger inside, and I think they got the best coach in the country. So Gino might argue with that, but
Really strong.
Amen. Now, what was it in the first half you think that was that NC State was bringing that was able to keep it so tight for at least for the first half?
well, they have some good guards, and they're knocking down some threes and keeping South Carolina on the perimeter more. Once South Carolina started getting in the post, getting to the big girl, you can see what happened. They opened a big lead up, and it opened up the outside game for them, and that's what opened up the game in the second half. But first half, I thought NC State hung in there tough. They knocked down big threes, penetrated the gaps a little bit, make some easy shots. They missed some easy ones too. Could have been even up at halftime.
So and from a
let's shout out to the big girl at South Carolina, Cardozo. Yeah, Brazil.
Cardozo,
too. She's Latina.
I've got what you and Scott and Coach Driscoll from and Bilal as well.
Shout out Coach Salam.
Shout out Coach Salam. As a spectator, and I've seen that while there's obviously the chess game going on out on the court, there's something that needs to be said for the bench work and making sure that when and I call them students, while they're players, they're really students because when they're there, you're able to, impart whatever you're grasping from the game as it's going along. So when they hit the court, I've always thought that second wave of players at 6 to 9, they're really the most indicative of good coaching because they're taking what you're seeing and implementing it. They're the first round of folks who are reactive, if you will, as you're learning and putting that coaching in. When you have a 6-man woman, in this case, come off the bench for South Carolina and get the boards, have the impact on the game that she has, do you contribute that to the coaching staff? Is that a will when someone can go in there and get double digit
spark like that?
It's just not normal. I haven't seen men or women. It's rare to have a 6th player come off the bench and have that much of an impact. In your experience, is that how much of that is player will versus them paying attention, listening, and taking whatever the coaching team is seeing out there, and then putting it into play once they get on the court?
I think it's a combination of both. I said our job and the assistant coach's job is to get the bench players ready to get in there and getting ready to go. And then we're seeing stuff, and also the bench players coming off, they get to see what's happening on the court.
Mm-hmm.
They're watching the players, what's going on, how do I defend this person, what are the open spots on the court, how can I attack here, am I going to open shots here? So they have an advantage actually coming off the bench. They're getting to see the game right away, and they get to sit next to us. And we get to explain to them and actually say, this is what you see what's happening out here. We can communicate with them as they're on the bench. That's an advantage they have coming into the game. And it's very rare for those 6 players to not be successful.
So
It
are there
happens.
any for the youth out there, for those high school players or even below? Are there any characteristics or attributes that you're looking for when you're out there recruiting in a player that you have confidence would be attended and take that 6th, 7th spot
Or any of the spots.
or any of the spots really, but not be on that court and understand what they can be getting from or should be doing, on the bench to make sure that they're maximizing their minutes. Are
Well, we
there
won't-
any attributes that you look for?
Well, do they communicate? Are they good listeners? Can they communicate to their coaching staff? Can they communicate to their teammates? Are they good listeners? Do they listen to the coaching staff? Do they listen to their teammates? Are they hard workers? Are they in there just to score points? Are they going to work their at both ends of the floor? Do they believe in the role they have? And that's something as a coaching that we have to develop that role and let them know what the role is when they get into the game. And I think as a high school player, that's the toughest thing for the bench players. They all think they're the best player.
Yeah.
So the hardest thing is, and that's the same in college. The hardest thing is to get across to them that doesn't matter who starts; it's who finishes. And if you're good enough to finish the game, doesn't matter if you come off the bench,
Yeah.
as long as you're contributing to the team and being successful.
Salute. So shout out to Don Staley, right? And
Absolutely.
their team's moving on to the championship game. It's amazing. They've only lost 1 game in the last 2 years. And
Unbelievable.
they get a little revenge facing the one team that's beaten them in the span of the last 2 years. So let's talk about, and listen, as we transition from this for our viewers, as we transition from South Carolina, NC State to Iowa, UConn, a lot of the spotlight was on Paige and on Caitlin because they're outstanding shooters. Anyone who's ever taken the court with Tom York knows he certainly can hang with him on the court from outside the 3-point. Yeah. So let's flip to that. A lot of attention, of course, to the last 4 seconds of the game with the foul call, with the illegal screen call. Let's maybe start with that from your vantage point from watching it. What was your hot take from that?
I think, and like Paige said after the game, it wasn't that one play that decided the game. She had opportunities, and her teammates had many opportunities to take advantage of and get the lead or stay ahead. Was it a tough call as a coach?
Come
I wouldn't
on.
want that. I wouldn't want that call. Let the players decide the game. It wasn't that outrageous, if I say that right.
Egregious. Yeah.
But I think it was a tough call, and I think, but Paige said it the right way. She handled it with a lot of class, and I think Gino did as well. And you got to have the hands out to somebody that lost the game. You got to have some passion for them, and you hate to lose a game that way, but there's no saying they would have scored anyway. I had my conversation with Wendy. There's no guarantee because she was saying that's a foul, but
So
no
okay,
guarantee.
she thought it was a good call.
No, didn't you, hon? We were back and forth, so it's tough. It was a tough situation, but like I said, I love the way Paige handled it, and Iowa got the benefit of the doubt, and good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, and that's
I know you got to follow with Donray. What do you think?
I just thought that with the amount of eyes, I don't know that women's basketball has ever been at that center of a spotlight to where individuals, regardless of where you're at and what you're doing,
Everyone's watching.
They were. It was like a Super Bowl Sunday of sorts. You were
Yeah.
making sure you were in front of that TV for and it was the highest of platforms they could be in.
And
I'm glad it was a tight game. And I'm sure it seems like more because you only remember the times that calls and refs make a difference. You don't really recall the times that they don't. But I just really wish that game would have ended in the hands of either Paige or Caitlin on a shot that they made or didn't make. And my thing was it egregious or that screen, in my opinion, it wasn't significant enough. And I'm not talking about because of the spotlight, because of where it was, end of the game and Final Four game. I mean, if it's if it's preseason, regular season, first quarter, I'm still having an issue with the call. Not to say that it wasn't, but the significance of
I'm saying
it was sold enough that if that call is made in the first quarter of game 3 of the season, I'm still questioning whether or not it was necessary. Because at the level to which it was an infraction,
Preach
the
it.
level to which it was an infraction occurs literally in any motion, all game, every game. I don't think it went beyond the spectrum of a typical screen that is allowed to go 95% of the time.
Soapbox time, y'all.
And so that's where my issue is. I'm not one of these people saying in that scenario you can't make that. I'm not saying. I'm saying in any game, any scenario, if that's a moving screen, then we're going to be sitting here for 5 hours until this game is over. Because if you run motion at all, that's happening.
Almost
So what
every
you got,
screen is
Tom?
illegal. Well, did you see Gino's reaction? I don't think he was reacting to the call though. I think he was more upset as player for moving, and she didn't have to move. But let's all look at the facts. There's 3.9 seconds left. Caitlin's on the line.
Yeah,
They
okay.
still had a chance to get the ball at half court and score. So, granted, the call might have been bad, but they had a chance to get a rebound. They all thought Caitlin was going to make the foul shot. She bricked it. I think she did on purpose. So I told Wendy when we were watching, I think she missed on purpose because that's a long rebound. There's no way they're going to get much time anyway.
Yeah.
So they didn't get the defensive rebound. They could have had a shot on their own. So illegal or no illegal, they still had a shot, and they didn't get the rebound when they had to even have another chance. So that's how I look at it.
And that was Gino's take too, right? The one question afterwards in the post game was what you just mentioned, right? If that, well, actually, he said 2 things, right? He said we got called for 3 illegal screens. They got charged with none. So I guess we need to work on. So I appreciated him saying that. But then 2 of if we're going to call illegal screens, we're going to be here all night, right? So so unfortunately, it puts a lot of attention on one play versus the other 39 minutes and 57 seconds, which highlighted a really good game plan from UConn to stop Caitlin Clark. So maybe if you want to jump in and talk a little bit about that, and Nika Mule in particular, she was just locked down.
My question is, I said it all year, why hasn't anybody else done it?
Yeah.
Pick her up 94 feet and drain her. She's tired. She doesn't want to play defense. Usually you watch Caitlin Clark play defense, there is none.
There is none.
And she gets away with it because she has great other teammates. But that was a great Gino. I knew Gino would do something like that. Just hound her, tie her out, and you saw that she didn't make any shots in the first half. She was tired and she was huffing and puffing. Even announcers, even the broadcaster even said, look, I never saw Caitlin Clark that tired. They wore her out. And what happened in the second half, I think Caitlin just regrouped and her teammates helped her out by setting some of those
Picked her up.
We call illegal screens
Yes.
well, that weren't called. But they had a great game plan, and I guess the rest of the Iowa Hawkeyes stepped up.
Were you surprised though? I mean, when you have a short bench, while that is clearly the recipe to stop her, that also could have a tremendous impact on your team when you already have a short bench and now you're having your, one of your key players that's also going to drain them.
Because she's the primary ball handler for
right,
most part,
and so she's got to go both ways. So I guess you got to trust the conditioning piece as well. But while I wasn't surprised at that move, I was surprised that it was still her all game. I thought that he would rotate, to make sure there was fresh legs, considering you got a 6-person rotation.
No, you trust the young lady that's has the heart and the desire to stop the best player in the country, and she did it. And Kaylin just came through at the end and made big shots in the second half and overcame that. She kept working hard, and they were chasing her all over the place. I mean, you can't fault Connecticut for that. They did a great job. And Iowa just did a better job. Well, they got their post player, got involved in the game, and she had a great game. Without that, they probably wouldn't have been in the game at all. Connecticut had a big lead, but a 12-point lead at one point, and then they got in foul trouble. Like you said, Caitlin started attacking her, got to the basket a little bit, and got caught up a little bit, and I think that hurt him a little bit. But you got to give Gino credit, but wasn't enough.
No, it was close. It was almost Jordan Rules-esque. That was the one piece that was just, they obviously broke down the tape, right, as we're going to do as coaches, and say, you know what? We're forcing her right. Because that way she can do the step back. And it was super effective. And Nika was amazing. So
Yes.
Shout out to Nico Mule for just amazing defense, teaching everyone that you can play it. And that's the one thing I think we don't want to get into a position of, one player better than other, but maybe appreciating the skills that one player has versus another.
Yeah.
With respect to Caitlin and Paige. Caitlin, of course, is a phenomenal shooter, Tom York-esque, from behind the arc. There we go. I was waiting for that reaction. and Paige, of course, too. Paige is more, I think she's really amazing off the bounce, that mid-range shot, but defensively, they all do. All right. That's kind of UConn basketball. So just want to give shout out to that. The other thing, maybe going back to that illegal screen at the end, oftentimes in that position, what do we see? We see teams giving it to their best player and just clearing out. I want to give shout out to UConn for running action, right? That was some good action. It's just too bad. Maybe just a little bit more space. If you get Paige stepping to her left a little bit more, that gives Edwards another half second to kind of get herself set. But just kind of shout out. Now, I know you're of the thought of giving it to Paige and just clearing out, but I like seeing someone actually run action for once.
Here's my position, Tom, and I would love to hear yours. So I was watching for the end. I was watching
Pandora's box is now
the Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi's piece, and Diana was like, if they're not going to pressure the inbound, give it to her, give it to Paige, and clear out. I wasn't on a full clear out because too often times when you do that, then you pressure, get the ball out their hands at half court, and then they never get it back, and you can't get into. So I'm not completely of the clear out, but I am of the kind of clear out and run a two person game, a pick and roll, high pick and roll where there's a lot of space that they really can't converge. That's what I was hoping for. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I'd run. You have Edwards, who's one great pick and roll player. Give the ball to Paige, have her come off the high post screen. Edwards was doing a great job inside against him. Give her the ball. You're only down one. You don't need a three, or you just need a layup, or Paige off the dribble. But they have to stop Paige. So who's going to be open? Now they help on Edwards. Somebody in the corner is going to be open. So that I agree. I would open it up a little more. They were too close to the sideline. If they ran some good action, they were 5 feet from the sideline. Even if Paige caught the ball, what you going to do with it? I would open it up. I would spread out a little bit more. I think she's good enough to attack the basket. They got to help, or she's going to the basket and game's over. So I agree. I agree with that. I would open it up a little bit, high post screen with Edwards
or Roy Williams style. Don't even call a timeout and just come down with 9 seconds left. So.
That's what I thought when they got the rebound and got out the pay. Why call timeout there? You have the advantage. Attack the basket. You're down one. They're probably going to foul you. But they're taught. I guess Gino tells them, let's call the timeout. We got the timeout. Let's use it. And so that's another hindsight. As coaches, we always have look back.
I was going to say you're used to that from the other side. So let's transition to the big game then.
That was good chopping that up with Tom though. That was good. Cool.
Getting the expertise. What are your thoughts? Let us know what you think is going to happen here in Cleveland between Iowa. They're America's darling at this point, and the venerable South Carolina looking for that chip. And to a little bit of a revenge game, if you will. What are you calling here?
I just think South Carolina's too deep. They're 10 deep. They got a better inside game. Caitlin's great. They're going to do the same thing as Gino. They're going to take the game plan, but they'll rotate people on her. I think South Carolina will end up winning the game. Iowa will have a shot if they can stay in that zone. And South Carolina doesn't make threes. That's their only shot. Iowa doesn't press, so you don't have to worry about that. I just think play that 2-3 zone and help out inside and hope that 6-man come off the bench doesn't knock down threes from South Carolina. And I think it'd be close early, but same thing. I think like NC State game, South Carolina eventually will open it up. But that revenge factor is going to be a big thing for them tomorrow.
I'm glad you mentioned that. We didn't bring that up. Shout out to Iowa for sneaking a little 2-3 zone in there. So that was good. Yeah, it worked.
Somebody likes to play some zone.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So that's good.
That's a for people who don't know. That's the Syracuse debate strategy over here.
Yeah.
So let's flip really quick to the men's game. Of course, we've got the Final Four kicking off tonight with UConn, Alabama, which I think is a great matchup. And then the battle of the bigs, NC State and their baby Shaq with Burns Jr. Against Edey at Purdue. Maybe let's start with the big man matchup. What are your thoughts of Purdue and NC State?
Well, that's gonna be a big match. You got the big 7'4" against the wide guy, Charles Barkley, yes, a little taller. You know, my boy Eddie gets a lot of calls in there, and I think if the NC State big guy bumps him a little bit, he might knock him down a few times. Hopefully, won't get too many bad calls, but that's a great matchup. But you got the taller guy against the tougher guy, so it's going to come down to finesse, strength. Who's gonna win? Who's gonna win the battle? I think most of the time that the height will pay a big difference, but I think the size and the big guy is gonna come out on top tonight.
Move him off his spot just to
Yeah,
see
I think he's gonna move him out away from the basket a little bit, and he's gonna make it tough for him. And I just think rebounding wise, he's a monster on the boards, and I think he'll control the boards and be more physical. I think he'll give some problems to the big guy.
Yeah, it's good to
Purdue.
see. It's good to see the post game back in this spot.
Yes, yes.
All right. And then on the other side of things,
Alabama, UConn.
Well, what a track meet that's going to be. Who makes the most threes tonight? I think that's going to come down to they both shoot the three well. Alabama's exceptional from the perimeter, very athletic. Connecticut has probably better inside game, but it's going to come down to who makes the most threes. That's the bottom line. They're both great programs and both good coaches.
Yeah, Coach Oates.
Alabama coach might have a better suit on. You know, he gets a fancy colored suit. It looks great, but I think it comes down to the 3-point shot tonight for whoever wins that game.
And UConn, right? I think they have the largest margin of victory of any team in the tournament all time. They've beaten everyone by at least 14, 15 points. And that they put on a clinic against Illinois in the Elite Eight.
They did.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. And how about you, Coach? What do you got?
I think we're gonna have. I think the spotlight on the bigs is going to continue. I think we're going to have UConn against Purdue. And that's just going to be an awesome matchup, just an amazing matchup. And maybe something that would be really cool. I know the three of us really enjoyed 90s, 2000s basketball in particular. With Purdue in the final, we're going to get some Gene KD time, which would be pretty cool. I think it would be amazing just to give him a little bit of time on the stage because he's done so much to, of course, establish that program. And
some highlights.
Coach played for him, right? So
give him some highlights. So you did Jimmy V.
Yeah.
NC State's back. What's the 40 years anniversary? And what's your take, Donray? Come on now. Don't put it on us.
Yeah, right.
I typically stay quiet when I'm going with the numbers. I don't see. I'm always trying to find a route to the unconventional pick, and I just don't see it. I don't. The better teams in this case are well-rounded, well-coached, and deep enough. And typically, when that's the case, and when you've got upperclassmen that are contributing, that's my biggest thing. The big in the March Madness, the big upsets are when you've got a senior, junior laden team going up against some, like those Kentucky freshmen, back in the day. That's where you're going to get these upsets. But when you've got teams, top down, 8, 9 deep with sophomore, junior, seniors, I just don't see either Alabama or NC State really coming through. I always hope, but I don't see it. I think it's going to be chalk and chalk to the end.
That's the transfer portal for you.
Yeah,
that's the new world. That's for another topic.
Yeah.
So who you picking? Who's for the women? Who's the final pick for the men?
I'm with you 100%. South Carolina is
Same.
They're one of the better teams I've ever seen. I mean, it's hard to say that. I know, UConn has had more than a couple runs and some teams that are, top 5 all time, but it seems just too good.
And on the men's side, who do you think is going to win?
I hate to say this, but I think UConn's going back. I'm genuinely pulling for a Big Ten traditional inside out team to do it, but it's not going to happen. I think UConn clear.
Yeah, UConn, same here.
Same. This was good.
This is good times.
Let's close it out with something. So I know we all have gear representing something that's important to us. All three of us are Kutztown grads. So, of course, Donray's repping that. I'm repping my former team up north in Syracuse before Kutztown, and you're rocking Hamburg. So talk with us a little bit about the Hamburg reference.
My daughter, Allie, is the head girls coach at Hamburg High School. So repping her a little bit and trying to, support her as much as I can, and looking for a great comeback in 24-25 for the Hawks.
There you go.
Salute L.O.R, 1,000-point scorer herself when she was at
Yep.
Daniel Boone.
Yep.
Great, and she runs a great summer clinic. So for the kids out there
Yep.
watching this, look it up and go sign up. Great clinic.
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right then.
Hey,
Thanks, Tom. This was great.
hey, thanks for having me. Anytime, man.
All right.
Oh,
Anytime.
wait. We got to do one more thing. We got to do one more. Anyone who follows Tom York on social media knows that other than basketball, he has one huge love, and that is all things Philadelphia Phillies. So we got to give you like 2 minutes. We're not saying anything. Tell us what you got about the Phillies.
Their bullpen is atrocious. Atrocious. Now they did win last night. Noah pitched a good game, but it was against the Nationals. They might be the worst team in the East, but it's going to be a long year just watching them because they just make it frustrating. I think they just want to be in the wild card just to be in the wild card. They don't want to win the division because you win the division. Look at the Braves 2 years in a row and they get knocked out by the Phillies. So I guess I'm just going to be satisfied with a wild card and hopefully Harper
in the
keeps
World
hitting.
Series
But
run to boot.
yeah,
What's the
do
10
do
games
something. But
in?
they just drive me nuts. Their bullpen's bad. I mean, Castellanos sent him back to the Reds. He's been awful. I mean, Turner, we give all this money to Turner. I mean, we gotta have a standing ovation for him to start hitting. So come on, what team ever did that? Did the Cubs ever do that? The Cubs ever do that? Come on.
Sheesh.
Come on now. So it's gonna be I could go on for 20 minutes, but look for my Facebook quotes anytime the Phillies do any and even they win, I jump on the bandwagon a little bit, but they just drive us all nuts, not just me.
Listen, when the tournament's over and we start doing some baseball breakdowns, we're bringing you back to do some Philly hot takes. So for sure.
Sounds good. You guys do a great job. Great
Thanks.
job.
This is fun.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for jumping on, Tom.
Enjoy the weekend.
All
You
right,
too.
Keep in touch.
Will do.